Utah Valley's AD Sumsion joins me on the Big Mountain to talk about Wolverine athletics and their move to the Big West. And welcome back to the Big Mountain. I am JY with another special guest here to discuss the most recent realignment issues going on right now, especially on the West Coast. I have the Utah Valley Director of Athletics, Dr. AD Sumsion, joining me. Welcome to the Big Mountain.
Thanks, JY. I'm glad to be here.
Really appreciate your time with us. I know you're a busy guy with what's going on at Utah Valley. Of course, you're coming off of the athletic director convention down in Orlando. A lot going on right now. So I want to be really respectful of your time. But, last Wednesday, news dropped here. It was June 4th that an announcement came out. Utah Valley is going to be joining the Big West here July 1st of 2026. You're the largest public institution in the state of Utah, one of the largest really in the Rocky Mountain region there, about 44,000 students, I believe. It's a very big university. You're also a graduate of UVU, I saw, and had been working there for quite a while in the athletic department, became the director of athletics there in 2019. I'd love to just start off with, what makes UVU home for you, obviously being a graduate there and sticking around, and what makes it really one of the best institutions of higher ed in that region?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I'm glad you asked. There's very few athletic directors across the country who actually work for their alma maters, which is really a cool blessing for me and my family. I've been at Utah Valley for 20 years and was a student previous to that, and just a great path. I mean, I love when recruits are in my office because I can legitimately tell them how Utah Valley changed my life.
Hmm.
And and that's what makes this really fun. Being able to see the growth. When I was a student, we had 24,000 students on campus.
Wow.
Now we have 47,000 students and growing. And just the growth of the university academically, the athletic department, I mean, it's just remarkable. If you look at our athletic department, we were literally a junior college that transitioned to Division One, the only one to ever do that, to make that jump, and the only one that will ever be able to make that jump again. And for us to do it so successfully in such a short amount of time really just helps me just well with pride. And so we've just been at this point where, we were a provisional school. We had to have a 7-year provisional
Hmm.
status with the NCAA. Nobody else had to have that long. So all the people complaining about their 4-year provisional, we had to do 7. And then we got in the WAC in 2012. So we've been in the WAC for 12 seasons. Next year will be our 13th. And we've loved the WAC. We've really enjoyed what they've done for us, who they are for us. And we're excited to compete in the WAC next year. But the evolution of the university, the evolution of our athletic department leads us to conference realignment and finding a conference like the Big West that really just makes sense for us. And so, as far as the university goes, we're here to serve this community. We're 4 miles away from Brigham Young University. I grew up with season tickets. My mom would take me to basketball, football, baseball games. And Utah Valley was a junior college back then, a very respected junior college. But as we've grown up, we're starting to see people taking their own kids to our games. And we're a good low cost leader in the community where people want to come and watch games and be a part of us. Our attendance grows every single year. And that's kind of just the same way the university is. People are showing that they want to be at this university, and they're showing it by coming to class and starting to come to our games.
That's a great summary. And, really one of the areas here of the country there close to Salt Lake that's just continuing to grow. And you mentioned that with your enrollment over the history and what you're expecting to move forward. So a lot of growth there in that area. You just got an NHL team. I have to throw that out there, being an NHL fan. Love to see that. Just a lot to like of that area, and really one of the most beautiful areas in the country. I mean, I saw pictures of your facilities and just the beautiful mountains and everything behind it. I mean, really just a gorgeous place in our United States of America. I want to go to the move to the Big West now. I mean, you mentioned that, you kind of mentioned the history, that quick elevation from a JUCO to Division One, and an incredible 7 year waiting period there. Very, very long time. So you've paid your dues to get here for sure. And I believe, UVU looks like they've maybe explored the ever-changing environment here of especially Western realignment right now. What maybe stood out to you with the Big West in making, this decision? A lot of people use this word fit. We've talked about that a lot. That seems to be the word, the go-to word for both conferences and for universities. Could you maybe explain a little bit more, add more color to what you mean, at least for your move to of UVU to the Big West, or of what that fit really means for your university?
Yeah, we I've been on the phone with every conference commissioner west of the Mississippi, and we had multiple leagues interested in adding Utah Valley.
Yeah.
And I mean that it's just a great pride point for us to know where we were to the point where we are now. And we don't have the big budgets, so it's really just been on grit and resilience that's got us to this point where conferences were looking at us. But the truth is the Big West has always stood out. It's a league that's a non-football league. It has the sports that we have, the sport profiles match up. So this move was really about vision. It was about long-term sustainability, and it really just strengthens our reach in the West and enhances travel efficiencies. As you mentioned, Utah County alone, we have this thing called Silicon Slopes where a lot of these tech companies are coming to Utah to be a part of who we are. And there's a 10 minutes from us is the Provo Airport, which has multiple flights in and out of Southern California every day. The Salt Lake City Airport's a multi-billion dollar airport that is a big Delta hub. And so we're just growing like crazy. And it's so fun to be a part of that. But so is the Big West. And the Big West is one of those leagues that we looked at. I've been stalking Commissioner Butterly for the last 4 years at the NACDA convention, just for a chance to talk to him, and have gotten to know him a little bit for an opportunity like this. Obviously, I think things would be different if the WAC were in a different place right now, and
Yeah.
we've loved our time there. We've loved our interactions competing with the universities there, but times have changed in NCAA athletics, and so the Big West made the most sense for us. And as we started to explore more about the schools we would be competing against, their budgets, their academics, their profiles, we just fit. It just fit perfectly with who we are. One of the things I love about the Big West is Commissioner Butterly. He is one of the best commissioners in the entire country. He is one of the only commissioners who will stand up to the P4s and who will say what needs to be said in defense of mid-major athletics. And the truth is P4s, whether they like to think this or not, they need us. And it's time for all of the mid majors, the 300 of us, to get together and start looking at what the future looks like with us and the P4s. And we need to kind of to rally and step up. So there's some semblance of reality for the majority of us. And that's where I love Commissioner Butterly. He's on like 12 major NCAA committees.
Yeah.
I think he's the chair of like six of those. And so he knows what's going on. And that was an appealing part of the league. One of the presidents that visited Utah Valley in February with Big West officials, he came in, and when he went back home, he reported to the board of directors. He said, "I'm going to call them Cal State Utah Valley because they're so similar to us." And that was really why this just made sense for us and why we are a good fit for the Big West, and they were a great fit for us.
Yeah, you said so much there. I mean, the leadership on both sides, right? We often talk to ADs and things, and you need a full leadership that's focused on moving forward, from the president on down. And the ADs are kind of the forefront of athletics and being out there and talking about them, but that full leadership kind of backing is so important to every university. And you mentioned Commissioner Butterly. We were fortunate to have him on a few weeks ago. Super impressive. I'm happy that maybe we are able to give a small platform to allowing some of those conversations to happen, because I agree with you. I think they're very, very important, and more people need to be paying attention to the full environment of collegiate athletics here. And I just got to ask about travel. You mentioned Cal State UVU. Everybody knows now the Big West is, and as Commissioner Butterly said to us, we're not just the Big California. We're the Big West. That seems to be maybe his go-to right now in adding UVU, which I appreciate. How did that, and maybe it didn't at all, but you mentioned travel there. You mentioned the airports. Obviously, you're the only member not in California. Not that it's a dramatic travel for you guys, but it is obviously a little different. I mean, did that play into a role at all, or at this point, it's like, hey, man, collegiate athletics, no matter where you're at, we're gonna have to travel. That's not really anything new. I mean, how much did that play into your decision here with any conference?
Yeah, it was big for us. We travel efficiency is a big deal. Saving money wherever possible. But also, I think having different names that the community in Utah will recognize coming into our gyms is a good thing. Them traveling to us. One of the neat things about the Big West is that they host the basketball tournament in Las Vegas,
Yeah.
which is right in between Southern California and Orem, Utah. So we were in a great place there. But yeah, travel matters. I mean, some of the other leagues that we were looking at would have been maybe some further travel, and every athletic director in the country is trying to save money wherever possible. And now we're looking at reinvesting in NIL and all the other things that are there. So yeah, it did play a big factor, but we loved knowing that the Big West tournament is in Las Vegas, where our fans can go down and be a part of that. And then just that the Provo airport just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and there's so many flights in and out of there now to California. It's certainly going to help our teams. And then it also, you travel into California if you're playing two games, hop on a bus. You're not traveling, one flight to the next flight.
Right.
So there's just a lot of efficiencies. It's good for our student athletes. It gives them an opportunity to do some more homework in the same hotel room. They don't have to necessarily do it all in airports, which makes it hard. So there was a lot of positives with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'd love to talk about facilities here next. A few years ago, I know the Utah Valley Community Credit Union pledged about $28.5 million, 20 million of which I believe was earmarked for the new soccer stadium there, which I believe is expected to open maybe here in just a few months. Also, there was a partnership that was announced with New Terra here that provides new facilities for all of the sports. There's a new performance center, a training dome, and everything. So definitely staying on top of the facilities. Can you speak to maybe how those partnerships came about? Because everybody's looking for more funding right now in collegiate athletics, and so both those partnerships and just your overall facilities there for UVU.
Yeah, we're really fortunate to have great facilities at Utah Valley and continually improving facilities. Utah Community Credit Union, UCCU Stadium. This will be one of the best soccer stadiums in the entire country. We're going to open that thing up in August. And it's just been so fun to be a part of that process and to see UCCU step up in a huge way, not just for us, but for this community to want to do something spectacular. We are lucky that we face a freeway with 65 million cars driving by every year, and so the impression rates didn't hurt anything
Right.
in this long-term deal we did with UCCU. But how cool is it that they wanted to invest in us, invest in the sport of soccer in Utah? we're actually the largest youth soccer playing state per capita in the entire country.
Okay.
And with soccer, men's and women's soccer, being the most popular sport in the entire world,
Yeah.
it just made sense for us to invest in that. And UCCU to jump on board and do that has been so remarkable. Our women's soccer team we're opening the stadium against University of Utah. Then we play Auburn, LSU, Cal, Gonzaga, all in our facility.
Hmm.
And that doesn't happen for mid majors without something spectacular like a $30 million stadium. And so, we that has been really good. We've got a great baseball stadium, honestly, one of the most picturesque views in the entire country. And our basketball arena holds 8,000. It's a thing where Utah Valley is growing, our fan base is growing. We're really fortunate to have what we have, especially coming from where we came from. There's a few facilities I've got to work on, but we're slowly getting there with partnerships like doTERRA, who has come in and saw the investment that they put into us that helps them in their business. They about half of their employees are Utah Valley related somehow, whether they go to school here now or they're graduates or so we're helping them to shape their business and what they do, and they invested in us, and it's been the greatest part about this job and why I choose to spend my career at Utah Valley is because we're growing, we're on an upward trajectory, and not just us internally see that it's the local community as well, and I always say to recruits like, hey, we're like a startup company. You want to get in on the ground level and let's go from there, and you're going to love the day when our stock just continues to rise. So it's fun to be a part of Utah Valley University right now.
That's awesome. I do want to maybe end our conversation here in a bit with the house settlement and maybe what comes next, if anyone can answer that question right now. But before I get to that, I have one sports specific question, and that has to do with wrestling. I actually asked some people on X if there was any questions they would like me to ask you, and one of them had to do with wrestling. So I believe with your move to the Big West, they're going to now have four members that have wrestling. Is there any update on potentially the Big West being able to sponsor that sport, or has that come up at all? Or is there any update that you can give us on that sport?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and there's definitely been quite a bit of speculation about wrestling. We compete in the Big 12 conference, which is one of the best wrestling conferences in the entire country.
Yeah,
It would be really hard for us to leave that league.
yeah,
Just the way they run their championships and the quality of opponents that we get here in our gym. We brought Oklahoma State in here last year, and I believe we had like 4,500
mm,
fans there. It was a packed house. We had to move it to our basketball arena. I mean, it's just a great league, and there's been no talks right now that I've heard of with the Big West starting. I've heard a couple rumors about possibly the Pac-12 and things like that, but right now we love the Big 12. We love the way it's ran. We're appreciative of how they do it. Definitely wish there was a little more parity. But that's how it is when you're part of a P4 conference. But wrestling's awesome. I love it. I've been to the last 11 NCAA championships. It's one of the coolest events that I get to go to every year.
yeah.
And if you haven't ever been to an NCAA wrestling championship, you got to put it on your bucket list. Even if you're not a wrestling fan, you will love this event. It is so awesome. And when you get to know wrestling and when you get to know why they're scoring and doing what they're doing, and how hard they work to get on the mat,
Yeah.
it just makes the sport like that much more fun to watch.
Agree. Steve and I are both big wrestling fans. He's a Penn State guy, so he often every year goes up to a few Penn State wrestling matches, and obviously gets to the one at the Bryce Jordan Center. And one of our favorite times of year is watching both the Big Ten championships and the national championships. I've never been there live. I watch it on TV. Would love to be there in attendance because it's a really special event with some fantastic athletes. To your point, you don't have to know exactly what's going on, but to see the athleticism of those young men and women now is amazing. So
Yeah, really funny story. Our President Tuminez, we invited her to her first wrestling match shortly after she became our president. And by the end of the match, she was down on the mat, slapping the mat, saying, "Show him the lights." It was the funnest thing. I had to go over to her and be like, "Hey, Prez, I don't want you to get kicked out, so let's not do that." And she's now a huge wrestling fan,
Yep.
which makes it, I mean, it's just one of those things like give it a chance,
Yep.
go in there, learn why they're doing what they're doing,
Yep.
and you'll be hooked.
Yep. Totally agree. So let's get to the House settlement, the proposed new governance that's ongoing. We had that conversation with a few commissioners. We talked with Commissioner Butterly. We had Commissioner Wistersill on a little bit. They kind of gave us their thoughts. And I believe we're still waiting on this lengthy FAQ to be distributed to all of the NCAA members. Obviously, they have it now extended the deadline for opting in from June 15th to June 30th. Big again, as I said, Big West Commissioner was on here, and he had a press conference with you last week. And it was just prior to a day or two prior to Judge Wilkins coming out with her ruling. And he basically said at the time, our institutions are as prepared as they can be in that moment. And I think probably in that moment is almost changing daily, in some cases maybe hourly, with what's going on right now. I mean, how prepared do you feel you are and UVU is right now in this environment? And what do you think are going to be your biggest challenges here in the not too distant future?
Well, I mean, the first thought is, the biggest challenge is keeping up with the power force. I mean, they're on a totally different level. They're dictating a lot of the terms of what's going on. I mean, I think it's ridiculous that mid majors are paying a lot of this $1 billion lawsuit
Yeah.
when it really wasn't us. So it's time to kind of stand up and start speaking on behalf of mid majors. A lot of athletic directors across the country, a lot of conference commissioners, they all want to be a part of a Big Four, Power Four program, and so they're not really willing to speak up. And I'm a guy that I love Utah Valley. I want to spend my career here. I've turned down other jobs to stay here, and so I'm willing to say that hey, it's not fair, it's not right, and these Power Four programs are in some sense ruining the landscape of college athletics. I never thought we would have to rely on Congress to do something, and now we're sitting back here just praying that Congress can fix this thing,
Right.
at least to a sense of where student athletes can still get paid, but there's some reality to what we do. I mean,
Yeah.
even with the transfer portal, I've heard of kids that have transferred 5 or 6 times. Like that's not right. Like
No.
we've got to teach them that we're here for academics.
Yeah.
At Utah Valley, we really focus on that. We're here to get an education, and we're here to win some championships while we're on that path. And we can't forget about that. We can't forget about the reason why we do what we do every day. I just came from the NACTIC convention, just got home yesterday, and I'm not sure if you've ever seen the show Billy Madison, but
Oh yeah.
I listened to people throughout the 3 days and seemed to be a little bit more confused. And there's a quote from Billy Madison that says, "At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought." And I honestly felt like that during some of the
Mm.
presentations. It was just like, hey, yeah, we're gonna get sued again, and that's what everybody's focusing on. Like, we don't have the answers right now, and that's just kind of how we've taken it at Utah Valley. It's more about like, hey, we're just gonna get to a place where we know who we are, we know what we do, and hopefully that doesn't change. So we're not going out there giving millions of dollars in NIL. We're in this to graduate student athletes, to win some championships, to help our student athletes become great people when they go out in the community and serve their communities. That's what we have to get back to. And I feel like we've devalued the fact that we're providing an education for student athletes, some who would have never had the chance to actually get an education if it weren't for college athletics.
Yeah.
And that's the point that like I hope we can get back to, instead of the 1% that are making multi-million-dollar contracts at P4 programs, which is what everybody's talking about. But now even on equity piece, I don't know how a P4 AD is going to come in here and say, oh, I'm going to give $15 million to my football program and not give hardly anything to my women's programs.
Sure. Yeah.
It's an interesting dynamic. I'm glad I don't have to deal with that. I'm more dealing with, hey, can I feed my student athletes, Chili's instead of Wendy's when they're on the road?
Yeah. And that's the reality of most universities and athletic directors, and I think a lot of people miss that. And again, that's why I'm really happy we can, have these conversations about the reality of the vast majority of collegiate athletics. And it is a little disappointing to hear you say that quote from Billy Madison. You've got the decision makers in the room, and what a great opportunity to really, give good guidance and give answers and to hear that kind of rational thoughts were maybe few and far between is a little disappointing, but at the same time, I guess it's not surprising because that just seems to be where we've been living here in collegiate athletics. I have one quick question about the roster limits, which seem to kind of be the sticky wicket at the very end. The judge was kind of caught up on that with the grandfathering and how that could work. Were roster limits ever something you were concerned with at UVU in terms of opting in or opting out? It seemed like that was maybe more of an issue for your types of universities. Is that accurate, or was that not something you were too worried about?
Yeah, we've been all over roster limits since we've heard about it. And
Okay.
so, there's certain things like I certainly learned some things at NACTA sitting through 3 days of classes. And I felt like I learned some things, but the truth is when it comes to the House settlement, to what the future really holds for college athletics, nobody knows.
Yeah.
Everything's just speculation. But, roster limits is something that probably needed to happen. There's no doubt that it needed to happen, but we're in this place now where, with roster limits, now the P4s can roster an entire soccer team at 28 student athletes, and we can't do that.
Yeah.
We're lucky to scholarship the max that we were able to scholarship at that point. Baseball, for example, 11.7. We got to a place where we got to 11.7 scholarships, and now the new roster limit's 34, which is great that it's at 34, but we're not getting to 34 scholarships anytime soon.
Sure.
Now, Arkansas, they're probably at 34 beginning next year. And that's something that it changes the landscape because players that can come to Utah Valley and put themselves in a position to get to the MLB, they're going to be sitting on a bench at Arkansas.
Yeah.
And and that's where the transfer portal does need to come in. It can help us, but it's one of those things where I think we're just losing track of why we do what we do, and that's providing opportunities. I mean, we've had some great, just using baseball as an example because it's fresh on my mind off our win at Oregon. We just we have student athletes on that team that one of them went to played at BYU, played at Oklahoma, came to Utah Valley, and is now a star.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where our opportunity is good for these student athletes, but you can go and get lost in the shuffle of these P4s.
100%. We say that quite often here on the Big Mountain, especially in regard to that transfer portal. We're football focused here in terms of the sport that we cover, but you see that I think a lot. And there was that fear of the G5 or 6 being rated by everyone, and frankly, being my focus is on the Mountain West, and I'm seeing all these kids that, to your point. They need the playing time. They don't want to be sitting on a bench. They want to be on the field proving what they can do for their future. And you don't do that in any sport sitting on a bench. So absolutely well stated. And I really want to appreciate and thank you for your time here with me. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Hey, it's been great, JY. Appreciate you having me on. Appreciate what you do, and even looking out for the mid majors. I think we need more of this out in the community, and I hope commissioners and athletic directors kind of start stepping up to the plate because it's time we have to have our voice heard.
For sure. Thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed that conversation there with UVU's Director of Athletics, Dr. Jared Sumsion. Lots of good detail. As our dwellers know, we do everything college football, and my focus is on the Western Collegiate Conferences, following the Pac, the Mountain West, the Big West, the Big Sky, and everything that's going on in conference realignment out there. So, hey, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe because we stay on all of this stuff. Smash that like button, and we'll see you next time on the Big Mountain.